Story 1. The Connecting Door. I'm a light sleeper, which is why I noticed the connecting door between hotel rooms rattling at 3:47 a.m. What I found on the other side still makes me check every hotel room I stay in. I was traveling through Ohio for a job interview and decided to save money by staying at a budget hotel off the highway. It was one of those places that looked fine in photos, but had stained carpet and a vending machine that buzzed too loudly when you walked past it. The parking lot was nearly empty when I arrived around 10 p.m., which I thought was a good sign. Fewer people meant less noise. My room was on the second floor at the end of the hallway. When I walked in, I noticed there was a connecting door on the left wall. You know the kind. 2 doors that lock from each side so families or groups can move between rooms. I checked mine immediately and made sure it was locked. The deadbolt was secure and I could see the door on the other side was closed too. I dropped my bags, ordered food, and tried to relax. The interview was in the morning, and I wanted to get at least 6 hours of sleep. After eating and scrolling through my phone for a bit, I finally turned off the lights around midnight. That's when I started hearing the sounds. At first it was just creaking from the room next door. Old hotels make noise. People walk around, use the bathroom, watch TV. I ignored it and tried to fall asleep. But then I heard something that made me open my eyes. It sounded like someone dragging furniture across the floor, heavy and slow. Then it stopped. I waited in the dark, listening. A few minutes passed and I started drifting off again. Then I heard a soft knocking sound. Not on my main door, on the connecting door. 3 light taps. I sat up and stared at the door in the darkness. Maybe someone thought they were knocking on the main door by mistake. I didn't answer. I just listened. After a minute, the knocking came again. 3 more taps, a little harder this time. I got out of bed and walked over to the connecting door. I put my ear against it and listened. I could hear breathing on the other side. Slow and steady, like someone was standing right there, inches away from me, separated only by 2 thin doors. "Hello?" I said quietly. No response, just breathing. I backed away from the door and sat on the edge of my bed. My phone said it was 1:15 a.m. I thought about calling the front desk, but what would I even say? Someone knocked on the connecting door and didn't answer me. That sounded ridiculous. I convinced myself it was nothing and got back into bed. I pulled the covers up and kept my eyes on the connecting door. The room was dark except for a thin line of light coming from under my main door. I could see the outline of the connecting door clearly. About 20 minutes later, I heard the doorknob on the connecting door rattle. Not like someone was trying to unlock it, like they were testing it, turning it slowly back and forth to see if it would open. My heart started racing because I knew I had locked it, but the sound made me doubt myself. I got up again and checked. The deadbolt was still secure. I pressed my ear to the door again and whispered, "Who's there?" This time a voice answered. A man's voice, deep and calm. "Do you have the time?" I froze. That was such a strange question to ask through a connecting door at 1:30 inches the morning. I didn't answer. I just stood there with my hand on the deadbolt, making sure it was locked. "I just need to know what time it is," the voice said again. "My phone isn't working." Something about the way he said it felt wrong. His tone was too calm, too friendly, like he was trying to make me feel comfortable enough to open the door. "It's late," I said. "Go to sleep." I walked back to my bed and grabbed my phone. I pulled up the front desk number but didn't call yet. I wanted to see if anything else happened first. I sat on the bed with my phone in my hand, staring at the connecting door. For a long time, nothing happened. The room next door went silent. No footsteps, no sounds. I started to think maybe the guy had given up and gone to bed. Then I heard something that made my stomach drop. I heard my deadbolt click. Not from my side, from his side. I watched in horror as my deadbolt slowly started to slide open. It moved an inch to the left, then stopped. Then it moved another inch. Someone was unlocking it from the other side. But that shouldn't be possible. Each door locks independently. There's no way to unlock someone else's door from your side. I jumped up and ran to the door. I grabbed the deadbolt and held it in place, but I could feel pressure on the other side. Someone was pushing or pulling something through the crack between the 2 doors. I could hear metal scraping against metal. "Stop," I said loudly. "I'm calling the front desk." The pressure stopped immediately. I heard footsteps moving away from the door on the other side. Then I heard the main door in the other room open and close. I stood there shaking, still holding the deadbolt. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to run out of my room and see who it was, but I was too scared. Instead, I called the front desk. A tired woman answered, and I explained what happened. She sounded confused at first, then concerned. She said she would send someone up to check the room next door. She also said no one was supposed to be in that room. It was unoccupied for the night. I waited in my room with the lights on and the chair pushed against the main door. About 10 minutes later, I heard voices in the hallway. I looked through the peephole and saw a security guard and the woman from the front desk standing outside the room next to mine. They unlocked the door and went inside. They were in there for maybe 5 minutes before coming out. The woman knocked on my door and I let her in. She looked uncomfortable. She told me the room next door was empty, but the connecting door on that side was wide open. She said housekeeping must have forgotten to close it after cleaning. But someone was in there, I said. I heard them. They tried to unlock my door. She didn't have an answer for that. She just apologized and offered to move me to a different room. I said yes immediately. I grabbed my bags and followed her downstairs to a room on the first floor. This one didn't have a connecting door. Before she left, I asked her if the security cameras caught anyone entering or leaving the room next to mine. She hesitated, then said the cameras on the second floor hadn't been working for the past week. They were waiting on a repair technician. I barely slept that night. I kept thinking about the voice asking for the time, the way the deadbolt had moved on its own, the fact that the room was supposed to be empty but someone was clearly inside. The next morning I checked out early and skipped breakfast. As I was leaving, I walked past the second floor hallway one more time. I don't know why. Maybe I just wanted to see the room in daylight. When I looked down the hallway, I saw the door to the room next to mine was propped open. A housekeeping cart was outside. I walked closer and peeked inside. The housekeeper was an older man folding towels. I asked him if he had cleaned this room yesterday. He looked at me strangely and said no. He said this room had been occupied for the past 3 nights by a guest who specifically requested not to be disturbed. My blood went cold. The front desk told me the room was empty, but the housekeeper said someone had been staying there. I didn't stick around to ask more questions, I just left. I still think about that night sometimes. I think about the voice asking for the time, the way the deadbolt moved, the fact that someone was staying in that room even though the front desk said it was empty. And the worst part is, I keep wondering what would have happened if I had opened that connecting door. What was on the other side waiting for me? I don't stay in hotels with connecting doors anymore. And if I have no choice, I push furniture against it and keep the lights on all night, because I know now that locks don't always keep people out, and sometimes the person in the next room isn't supposed to be there at all. Story 2. The Mirror Message. I have a habit of checking my phone before bed, which is why I took a photo of my hotel room that night. When I looked at the picture later, I saw something in the bathroom mirror that wasn't there when I took it. This happened last fall when I was driving through North Carolina for a friend's wedding. I had been on the road for about 7 hours and needed to stop for the night. I found a small hotel near the state line that had decent reviews and wasn't too expensive. The building looked older, but well maintained. The kind of place that probably used to be nicer back in the 80s. I checked in around 9 p.m., and the guy at the front desk seemed friendly enough. He was probably in his 60s with gray hair and glasses. He handed me a key card and told me breakfast started at 7. My room was on the first floor near the back exit, which I liked because it meant less hallway noise. When I opened the door, the room looked clean and standard. 1 queen bed, a small desk, a TV mounted on the wall, and a bathroom with a shower and sink. The mirror above the sink was one of those large ones that takes up most of the wall. I dropped my bags on the bed and plugged in my phone to charge. I was exhausted from driving, so I ordered food and ate it while watching TV. Around 10:30 p.m., I decided to get ready for bed. I brushed my teeth in the bathroom and noticed the mirror had some streaks on it, like someone had wiped it down but missed a few spots. I didn't think much of it. Before getting into bed, I did what I always do. I took a quick photo of the room on my phone. It's just a weird habit I picked up after reading online that it's good to document your hotel room in case anything goes missing or gets damaged. I snapped the picture from the doorway so I could see most of the room, including the bathroom. I glanced at the photo quickly to make sure it was clear, then put my phone on the nightstand and turned off the lights. I fell asleep pretty fast, but I woke up around 2 a.m. because I needed to use the bathroom. I got up and turned on the bathroom light. The mirror looked the same as before, streaky but nothing unusual. I used the toilet, washed my hands, and went back to bed. That's when I couldn't fall back asleep. My mind was too awake. I grabbed my phone and started scrolling through social media to tire myself out. After a few minutes, I opened my photo gallery to delete some old pictures and make space. That's when I saw the photo I had taken of the hotel room earlier. I zoomed in on it without really thinking, just looking at the details, the bed, the desk, the TV. Then I zoomed in on the bathroom area. That's when I saw it. In the mirror, there was writing. Not on the mirror itself, but in the reflection. Like someone had written something on the glass, and it only showed up in the photo. I could see faint letters spelled out in what looked like condensation or maybe finger smudges. The writing said, "Help me." I stared at my phone screen, my heart starting to beat faster. I looked up at the actual bathroom mirror from where I was sitting on the bed. There was nothing there, just streaks, no words. But in the photo, clear as day, the words "help me" were visible in the reflection. I got up and walked to the bathroom. I turned on the light and studied the mirror closely. I wiped my hand across it, trying to see if the streaks would form any kind of pattern. Nothing. Just random marks from cleaning. I looked at the photo again. The writing was definitely there. I could see it in the upper right corner of the mirror's reflection. "Help me" in shaky, uneven letters. My first thought was that maybe it was an old message someone had written on the mirror that only showed up under certain lighting or conditions. But that didn't make sense because I had just looked at the mirror a few hours ago and seen nothing, and I was looking at it now and still seeing nothing. I sat back down on the bed and tried to calm myself. Maybe it was just my mind playing tricks. Maybe the photo was glitchy, or I was seeing something that wasn't really there. I zoomed in and out several times, but the words were still visible. That's when I noticed something else in the photo that made my stomach turn. Behind the shower curtain there was a shadow, just a faint dark shape, like someone was standing in the tub. I hadn't noticed it before because I was focused on the mirror, but now that I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. I looked at the bathroom. The shower curtain was pulled closed. I hadn't opened it since I arrived because I didn't plan on taking a shower until the morning. I walked slowly toward the bathroom, my phone still in my hand. I reached out and grabbed the edge of the shower curtain. I counted to 3 in my head, then pulled it open fast. The tub was empty, nothing there, just white tile and a bar of soap sitting on the edge. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. I closed the curtain again and went back to the bed. I looked at the photo one more time. The shadow was still there in the picture, but the tub was clearly empty now. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a trick of the lighting. Maybe the angle of the photo made it look like there was someone there when it was just a shadow from the towel rack or something else in the room. But the words in the mirror, those were harder to explain. I decided to take another photo. I stood in the same spot as before and took the exact same shot of the room. I looked at the new photo immediately. The mirror was clear. No writing, no shadow in the shower. I compared the two photos side by side. In the first one, the words "help me" were visible, and the shadow was behind the curtain. In the second one, taken just now, there was nothing. I should have left the room right then. I should have grabbed my stuff and gone to the front desk, but it was 2:30 a.m., and I was tired, and part of me still thought I was overreacting. I got back into bed and left the bathroom light on. I kept my phone in my hand and tried to sleep, but I couldn't stop thinking about the photo, about the words, about the shadow. Around 3 a.m., I heard water running in the bathroom. I sat up fast and looked toward the doorway. The sink was on. I could hear the water hitting the porcelain basin. I didn't turn that sink on. I was lying in bed the whole time. I got up and walked to the bathroom slowly. The water was running full blast, steam starting to fog up the mirror. I reached over and turned it off. The room went quiet again. That's when I saw the mirror starting to fog up even more, even though I had just turned off the hot water. And as the condensation spread across the glass, letters started to appear. The same words as before, "Help me." But this time, more words appeared underneath, "Get out." I didn't wait. I grabbed my bags, my phone, my keys, everything I could carry in 10 seconds. I didn't even put on my shoes. I ran out of the room in my socks and went straight to the front desk. The same older man was there, but he looked half asleep now. I told him something was wrong with my room and I needed a different one immediately. He asked what was wrong, and I didn't know how to explain it without sounding insane. I just said there was a problem with the bathroom, and I didn't feel safe. He gave me a weird look but handed me a key to a different room on the second floor. I asked him if anyone else had complained about the room I was just in. He said no. I asked him if anyone had stayed in that room recently. He checked the computer and said the last guest checked out 3 days ago. I went to the new room and locked every lock on the door. I pushed the desk chair against it for extra security. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I just sat on the bed with the lights on, holding my phone. The next morning, I checked out early. Before I left, I asked the front desk guy if he knew anything about the history of the hotel. He said it had been there since the 70s and had changed ownership a few times. Nothing unusual, no tragic events or anything like that. I got in my car and left. I didn't delete the photo until a week later, and only because looking at it made me feel sick. I still don't have an explanation for what I saw. I don't know who wrote those words, or why they only showed up in the photo and in the steam. I don't know who the shadow in the shower was, or if it was even real. What bothers me most is the second message, "Get out." Like whoever wrote "help me" realized I couldn't help them and wanted me to leave before something happened to me too. I still take photos of hotel rooms when I check in, but now I look at them immediately, and if I see anything strange, anything at all, I leave. Because I learned that night that some places have people in them you can't see until it's too late. Story 3: The Wrong Floor. I stayed at a hotel that only had 4 floors, which is why it didn't make sense when the elevator took me to the 5th. What I found up there still makes me take the stairs everywhere I go. This happened about 6 months ago when I was traveling through Tennessee for work. I had a presentation the next morning, and wanted to stay somewhere close to the office building. I found a mid-range hotel that looked nice enough online. 4 floors, recently renovated, free breakfast. Nothing fancy but professional. I arrived late, around 11 p.m., because my flight got delayed. The lobby was empty except for one woman working the front desk. She checked me in quickly and handed me a key card. Room 312, 3rd floor. She told me the elevators were to the left and wished me a good night. I grabbed my suitcase and walked to the elevator. The button panel showed 4 floors plus the lobby. I pressed 3 and waited. The elevator made a soft dinging sound as it climbed. When the doors opened, I stepped out into a normal-looking hallway with dark blue carpet and white walls. Room numbers started at 301 on the left. I found my room halfway down the hall, swiped my keycard, and went inside. The room was exactly what I expected. Clean, modern, a little generic. I was too tired to care. I brushed my teeth, set an alarm, and went to bed. I woke up around 3 a.m. because I was thirsty. I had forgotten to grab water from the vending machine before bed. I lay there for a few minutes trying to decide if I was thirsty enough to get up. Eventually I gave in. I put on my shoes, grabbed some cash, and left my room. The hallway was quiet and dim. Most of the overhead lights had been turned down for the night, leaving just enough light to see where you were walking. I headed toward the elevator and pressed the down button. The elevator arrived quickly. I stepped inside and pressed the button for the 1st floor, where I remembered seeing vending machines near the lobby. The doors closed, and the elevator started moving. But instead of going down, I felt it going up. I looked at the button panel. The number 4 was lit up. I hadn't pressed 4. I pressed 1. I hit the 1 button again, but the elevator kept rising. Then it stopped. The doors opened to a hallway that looked similar to the 3rd floor. Same blue carpet, same white walls, but something felt different. The lighting was dimmer, almost yellowish instead of white. And there was a smell, not strong but noticeable, like old cleaning chemicals mixed with something stale. I didn't get out. I just stood there looking at the hallway, confused. The elevator doors started to close, but before they did, I heard something that made me reach out and stop them. I heard someone crying. It was faint, but definitely crying. A woman's voice, coming from somewhere down the hall. I stepped out of the elevator without thinking. The doors closed behind me and I was alone in the hallway. "Hello?" I called out. The crying stopped immediately. The hallway went completely silent. I waited for a response, but nothing came. I started to feel uneasy. Something about this floor felt wrong. The air was colder than it should have been. The lights flickered slightly every few seconds. I walked down the hallway slowly, looking at the room numbers. They started at 501. That didn't make sense. The hotel only had 4 floors. I was supposed to be on the 4th floor, but these room numbers suggested I was on a 5th floor that shouldn't exist. I pulled out my phone to call the front desk, but I had no signal, not even 1 bar. I tried anyway, but the call wouldn't connect. That's when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around fast, but the hallway was empty. The elevator was at the far end, maybe 30 feet away. No one was there, but I definitely heard footsteps, slow and deliberate, like someone walking in boots or hard-soled shoes. I heard them again, closer this time, but still, I couldn't see anyone. I started walking back toward the elevator, moving faster now. I pressed the call button multiple times. The display above the elevator showed it was on the lobby level. I watched the numbers light up as it climbed. 1, 2, 3. Then it stopped on 3. It didn't come up to 5. I pressed the button again, harder this time. The elevator started moving again. 3, 4. Then it stopped on 4. The footsteps behind me were getting closer. I could hear them clearly now, echoing in the hallway. I spun around to look, and this time I saw something that made my blood run cold. At the far end of the hallway, barely visible in the dim yellow light, there was a figure, tall and thin, standing completely still. I couldn't make out any details, no face, no clothing, just a dark silhouette against the wall. I turned back to the elevator and slammed my hand against the button. The display showed the elevator was moving again. 4, 5. The doors finally opened. I jumped inside and frantically pressed the button for the lobby. The doors started to close, but right before they shut completely, I saw the figure at the end of the hall start moving toward me, not walking, gliding, like it wasn't touching the ground. The doors closed and the elevator dropped fast, too fast. My stomach lurched as the elevator plummeted down. I watched the numbers on the display panel descend rapidly. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, lobby. The elevator stopped hard and the doors opened. I stumbled out into the lobby, breathing heavy. The woman from the front desk looked up at me with concern. "Are you okay?" she asked. I tried to explain what just happened, but the words came out jumbled. I told her I went to the 5th floor. She looked confused and said the hotel only had 4 floors. I insisted I was just on the 5th floor and saw room numbers starting with 501. She came around the desk and walked with me to the elevator. She pointed at the button panel inside. 4 floors plus lobby. No button for a 5th floor. "You must have dreamed it," she said. "Or maybe you were sleepwalking. It happens." I wasn't sleepwalking. I was wide awake. I showed her my phone and told her I had no signal up there. She checked her own phone and showed me full bars. She offered to move me to a different room or give me a refund, but I could tell she thought I was either lying or confused. I asked her to check the security cameras. She hesitated, then said she would look into it and get back to me. I didn't wait for an answer. I went back to my room, grabbed all my belongings, and checked out immediately. It was 3:30 a.m., and I didn't care. I drove to a different hotel 20 minutes away and paid for a new room. The next morning I called the original hotel and asked to speak to a manager. A man answered and I explained everything that happened. He listened quietly, then said something that still bothers me. He said the building used to be 5 floors when it was first built in the 1960 seconds, but the 5th floor was closed off and sealed in the early 2000s after a series of incidents. Guests complained about strange noises, feelings of being watched, and unexplained phenomena. The hotel decided it was easier to renovate and market the building as a 4-story property. He said the 5th floor was inaccessible and had been for over 20 years. I asked him how I got up there then. He didn't have an answer. He said it shouldn't be possible. The elevator system was completely rewired during the renovation, and the buttons for the 5th floor were removed. But I was there. I saw the hallway. I saw the room numbers. I saw that figure. He apologized and offered me a full refund. I took it and never went back. I still think about that night. About the crying I heard. The footsteps. The figure at the end of the hall. And I think about the fact that the hotel sealed off an entire floor because of incidents they wouldn't explain. What bothers me most is that I heard crying before I saw anything else. Like someone was still up there, trapped on a floor that doesn't officially exist anymore. And when I showed up, whatever else was on that floor noticed me too. I take the stairs now whenever possible. And if I have to use an elevator, I watch the button panel the entire time to make sure it's only taking me to floors that should exist. Because I know now that some buildings have spaces between the spaces. Places you can end up that you were never supposed to find. Well, those were tonight's stories. If you enjoyed them, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and let me know in the comments which one got to you the most. I'll see you soon with more stories.